Hello and welcome to episode 10. We've made it to double digits of the Lucas and Lucas podcast. Lucas, Frankel, and Mike Lucas here with you, and we got to start with none other than, you guessed it, the Brooklyn Nets led by number 7, Kevin Durant. Yep, I got his jersey. To all the fools who don't back, it is a Kevin Durant jersey, and there's nothing that you could say otherwise that would make it not true. So Isaiah Thomas, I didn't even know this until you brought it to my attention. He tweeted, was it, I guess, today, Wednesday, November 11th, Veterans Day. Shout out to all the troops out there. We so appreciative of the sacrifices you make. Isaiah Thomas said today on Wednesday, November 11th, haha, crazy thing is he, meaning Kevin Durant, is even better now. Just hoop with him the other week. OMG, end quote. So Isaiah Thomas says that he hooped with Kevin Durant and was clearly impressed. You sent me the tweet on Twitter. I didn't see it. So I can tell that your excitement is just through the roof over what the possibilities for this team.
Yeah, I'll just start with Kevin Durant. Before he got hurt, he was arguably the best player in the NBA. It was him, LeBron James, and Kawhi Leonard. Depending on the year, one of those three were the apex predator in the NBA. Giannis may have 2 MVP awards, but as we've seen in the playoffs, he's not the guy you want running the show. If Isaiah Thomas is correct and Durant is better than he was before, then we are getting, and when I say we, the Brooklyn Nets are getting the best player in basketball. We saw what happened to LeBron this year after a significant time off, the first significant time off since he came in the NBA, how rested he was, how motivated he was, and how determined he was, especially in the bubble, to come out and dominate. He was in the running for MVP in the regular season. He was the most valuable player in the postseason. And to say the rest from his groin injury last season didn't lead to his resurgence in the regular season this year, or the time off from the pandemic didn't lead to his rejuvenation in the postseason, I think is asinine. It clearly helped. Now, Durant's in a different situation. He's coming off an Achilles injury, and 7-footers coming off foot injuries and Achilles injuries, ankle injuries, do not have a great track record. But most dudes aren't Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant, before he got hurt, is a top 20 player in NBA history. Kevin Durant is a freak of nature. He's the 7-foot shooting guard who might very well be the single most unguardable player the NBA has ever seen. He might be the best scorer in NBA history, flat out. From what he could do inside, outside, at his size and his athleticism, it is unmatched throughout the history of the league. So do I think he'll be better? I don't know how much better he can get. Do I think we'll see Kevin Durant at the same level we saw before he got hurt? Absolutely. And just by having Kevin Durant, you have the second or third best player in the league and a legitimate shot to win the Eastern Conference. So then you add on Kyrie Irving, who I hate, Karis LeVert, and all the other pieces, Jared Allen. You can go down the list. The Nets are scary. If Durant is back to the Kevin Durant that we've grown accustomed to seeing the last few years, in the Eastern Conference is officially put on watch list.
You said nothing that we didn't already know. All right. Kevin Durant is.
What am I supposed to say? I haven't seen him play. We haven't seen him. The only one who can tell us something we don't know is Isaiah Thomas, and he said, "Oh my God, he looks better than before." So I'm going off that, Frank. I apologize that my credentials at A&M don't get me into the Nets practice facility for one-on-one video sessions of Kevin Durant shooting pull-up jumpers.
What Isaiah Thomas says means nothing. It's irrelevant. I don't care what he has to say. Isaiah Thomas saying that Kevin Durant looked great in a one-on-one pickup scrimmage, that does nothing for me. It means absolutely nothing. And as long as Kyrie Irving is a member of this franchise, there is no hope. He's ruined every single team he's been on besides that one LeBron team. And that was it might as well be a lifetime ago. That was Kyrie Irving in a different lifetime. This is a new player, a new team. He wants to be the alpha dog, and he screws up every situation he's been in. And I expect nothing different here with the Nets. This situation is doomed to fail. I don't care how great Kevin Durant is. As long as Kyrie Irving's on the team, it's going to fail.
Yeah, well, I did mention in there I'm not a fan of Kyrie Irving either. So thanks for repeating my point, Frank. So if I'm saying
Kevin Durant, they're going to win the Eastern Conference. That was your point.
Yeah, well, I'll say that Kyrie might be the downfall. The issue is, what do you want Isaiah to say? Would you rather say, "Oh my God, he looks great," or "Holy crap, Durant can't move anymore"?
I don't care what he has to say. It means nothing. It's irrelevant. And how dare you even pay attention to such irrelevant commentary?
Why do you
on Twitter?
Listen? The Jets and the Yankees of recent have just ruined your ability to enjoy sports. You can take no enjoyment in sports because you know, and mainly the Jets, it's going to come to a crushing, agonizing defeat in the end. You have to take the little things and savor them, Frank, because we haven't won, and we, as in New York, we haven't won a championship in a long time, brother. You've never won a Super Bowl.
You don't have to
never won.
I know.
You've never won an NBA ring. You got one World Series. Like, we have to savor these little nuggets of joy we get from our teams that have been mediocre for the last decade. So yeah, sorry about getting excited about good news about the Nets' best player who they spent buku amount of money for. I apologize for getting excited. You go back into your negative Nancy land, go crawl back under a rock, go put 12 masks on and live extra safe in the pandemic, Frank. I'm going to enjoy myself carefully, social distantly, and with a mask on outside, but I'll be smiling underneath because Kevin Durant is a net.
All right, whatever.
Moving on.
All right, let's go. All right, so the other point that you were just so wrong on. So last week on this podcast, you were so adamant. You were so gung-ho over the fact that the Buccaneers were going to destroy the New Orleans Saints. It was going to be the culmination of the end of Drew Brees. This was going to be the end of his career. They were finished. They were done. Couldn't win a game. A big game of his life depended on it. And what happened? They won 38-3. Drew Brees threw for 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, 26 out of 32. The 35-point loss was the worst of Tom Brady's career. Mike, you just keep doing this to yourself. How do you defend? What do you have to say to yourself?
Here's what I'll say. I was wrong. First and foremost, I was wrong. I fully expected Tampa Bay to dominate. Everyone picked Tampa Bay to win. I think you picked Tampa Bay to win as well. So before we all get gung-ho here, I just was more adamant about it. And hand up, I was wrong. But this game proved to me one thing. Sean Payton is the best coach in football at the moment.
Whoa.
And I'll tell you why. You go back to that first drive. Who'd they bring in on the first third down play at quarterback? They took out Drew Brees, which tells me that Sean Payton really doesn't trust Drew Brees on the most critical play of the game to that point. He put in his backup quarterback over the NFL's all-time leader in passing touchdowns. Now, give Drew Brees credit. He was darn accurate on those deep throws today, or on Sunday. And by deep, I mean 8-yard passes. He put the first touchdown pass, Frank, on that fake bubble screen. You can't draw that. That's all Sean Payton. Drew Brees had to throw every ounce of his body strength into that 17-yard pass, and he almost overthrew it. So, yeah, maybe he could throw the ball 20 yards, but it takes every ounce of his strength. Sean Payton designed the absolute perfect game plan. It got so bad that Taysom Hill played quarterback for a couple of drives. Jameis got in there. I thought it was kind of funny that on a drive, Taysom Hill got him down to the end zone, to the red zone. They put in Drew Brees to get that pad touchdown stat just to increase his lead over Brady and the all-time passing leader. But yeah, I was wrong about the Saints. They could win games ugly. I still don't think Drew Brees is a guy that can single-handedly win a game for you. But when you have the combination of Brees throwing short passes with precision and accuracy, a good defense, the running game looks solid, and then Sean Payton just outsmarting the guy on the other sideline, they're dangerous. And also Tampa Bay played the worst possible game ever. So you combine those two things, it was a shellacking. Hand up, I was wrong. I apologize, New Orleans. You know I love you as a city. Drew Brees, still not buying it yet, but yeah, he played pretty well. He outplayed Tom Brady, so credit where credit's due.
I mean, I thought Brady was going to go in there and try to make that statement. I thought he was going to throw at least 4 touchdown passes. I thought,
sorry. I told you to mute me. I texted you to mute me.
I can't just take you off the screen.
You can mute me though.
Disgusting. Wait, people are not going to watch this now because of that. Whatever.
I blew my. Listen, if no one's ever seen someone blow their nose before, then go out into the real world. I apologize for nothing.
I thought Tom Brady was going to go into that game. I thought he was going to light up. I thought, like, with Antonio Brown, with Gronk, Evans, and Godwin, I thought he was just going to field that. I was expecting just the best performance of the season for Brady. I benched Josh Allen because I was so stoked for Brady, and I ended up losing my fantasy league because of it. So thanks for that, Tom. And I was I was so on the fence going into the day. I had Josh Allen in the starting spot all week, and then about an hour before kickoff, I was like, you know what? I'm starting Brady. Because I knew Allen was going to get his. I just thought Brady had a chance of just having.
I did too. I think everyone did, Frank. We're all in the same boat as you.
But whatever. So I lost that either way. 2 other points about the Buccaneers. First one is about Antonio Brown. So Colin Cowherd on Wednesday made a point that for all of Brady's career, for all of his life, it's all about been proving people wrong. And, from his days at Michigan and starting behind Drew Henson and going to the Patriots and being, the whatever 8th string he was and working his way up the depth chart and the 6th round pick and all of that stuff. His whole career is just that chip on the shoulder mindset. And now going to the Buccaneers, it's almost like he was set out to wanting something else there to do that. And he goes out and he orchestrates Antonio Brown to the Buccaneers. And this is just another chip on Brady's. Let me show the world that I can win with this guy. No one will give him a chance. I'm giving him a chance. Let me show the world that I could do it. And it backfired one week, but I think that's part of the hidden motivation behind Brady bringing Antonio Brown to Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I mean, I think he was mad when New England cut him last year. When that situation didn't work out, he was clearly mad, especially with the lack of weapons they had in New England at the time. And Brady's always had an affinity for guys who can get open and guys that make his job easier, because at the end of the day, Brady is the ultimate competitor, which, sounds dumb saying they all want to win, but Brady's proven he's gone above and beyond, taking pay cuts to make his team around him as good as it possibly could be to set them up to win a championship. Antonio Brown helps you win a championship on the field. Off the field, you can argue that that's a bigger distraction than it is a benefit with him at wide receiver, especially when you have guys like Chris Godwin and Mike Evans already. But I agree. He wants to prove Antonio Brown can still play in this league. He wants to prove that he can still play in this league. He's doing it on a weekly basis. And he wants to prove that New England was wrong for cutting him when that may have been the missing piece last season.
Cut him. What are you talking about?
New England?
Yeah, he chose to leave.
Antonio Brown?
Oh, Antonio Brown. I thought you were talking about Brady.
Yeah. But no, he's trying to prove that, he chose to leave, but that situation with Belichick was obviously not still ideal. So he's out there trying to prove Belichick wrong, not only as a coach, as a GM. And yeah, I agree with Coward. It's a good point. Good job, Colin.
So the Buccaneers are a fascinating team. They're undefeated against every other team and 0-2 against the Saints. Brady's looked incredible against every team besides the Saints. And after both games against the Saints, I'm like completely out of the box. I'm like, there's no way that they win a championship. So I don't know where I feel like if I'm talking about a panic meter for the Buccaneers, I feel like I'm almost like at an 8 because I know like other quarterbacks in the league, when they fall behind like that, you get garbage time touchdown. You get like you orchestrate something. Like Kirk Cousins, when he's down huge, he'll throw like 4 fourth-quarter touchdowns when he's down 42-0 and he'll lose 42-28. Brady just rolled over, completely just gave up. I don't know. It was very bizarre to see. I don't want to like completely write off the Bucs, but man, seeing how they played and how bad Brady and how old he looked and how flustered he looked and how he was just throwing balls up for grabs, my confidence in them going forward is like, I mean, I have to assume we'll bounce back, but I am not confident at all in them as like a legitimate like making the Super Bowl team.
Yeah, I'm not writing them off yet either. I think that was just a worst case scenario game. Everything went against them, and they just got pounded from the beginning and never could recover. And I think New Orleans also, you see a lot of teams let up late, which leads to those easy touchdowns, those Kirk Cousins touchdowns. New Orleans did not let up. I mean, they were still coming after the Buccaneers late into the fourth quarter until that last drive where Jameis kind of just handed it off, which also played into the fact that they could never get anything going. And I think Sean Payton did that on purpose. I think that was a statement by Sean Payton saying, hey, this is our division. Y'all have no say in this. My panic meter is not an 8. It's more at like a 6. But they've lost the 2 best teams they played. The one thing I will say, they did dominate Green Bay. I think Green Bay is a good football team. I believe Green Bay beat New Orleans, right? Or did New Orleans beat Green Bay?
Let me check.
They played earlier this season.
Either way, so you look at the NFC as a whole. They beat the Saints 37-30, the Packers did, in week 3.
Yeah.
But you look at the NFC. Who's the best team right now? Who do you trust? Who do you have the most faith in that when push comes to shove? Who do you have the most faith in?
The Packers.
With that defense?
Yeah. And it's more because I just don't trust Drew Brees.
No, because the answer is the Saints. The Saints.
I just don't trust Drew Brees. I trust Aaron Rodgers to save a baby from a burning building. I don't trust Drew Brees.
The Saints are going to the Super Bowl.
They could. And the Packers have crumbled late in the postseason the last 2 years. But I would go Packers, Saints by a slim margin. And then I think the Bucs are third. And the Giants are fourth.
The Saints are number 1 because they're the most complete team. You talk about Brees. Listen, as with Sean Payton, we saw it again this game. They know how to overcome Drew Brees' inability to throw 60-yard passes down the field. They don't need that to win games. Just because Brees can't do that doesn't mean that they're not one of the cream of the crop teams. The Packers don't have
the Packers beat them though, Frank. We're looking at head-to-head here. The Packers won.
When push comes to shove.
Well, I'm just saying we have 2 6-2 teams. You're making it seem like I'm picking a dark horse here. We're picking 2 6-2 teams, and my 6-2 team beat your 6-2 team. It's close. I mean, I'm not saying I think the Packers are significantly better than the Saints, but I'm just saying you asked me who do I think is the best team in the NFC. I think the Packers.
All right, let's talk about some other teams in the NFC. We didn't even bring up the Seahawks because their defense can't stop a nosebleed. They had Jamal Adams across on that back against the Bills. They're getting Demon Harrison for this game, so I guess reinforcements are coming. But as it currently stands, the Seahawks have no chance to go to the Super Bowl. Their defense is just too atrocious. They'll probably make the divisional round, maybe in the conference championship game, but they're not built to make a sustained Super Bowl run. There's no way.
Yeah, that defense is abysmal. They actually are giving up the most pass yards ever on a per game basis in NFL history right now, which is hard to fathom. Russell Wilson is that good that he could keep them in any game despite how bad the defense plays. But if that defense doesn't step up, they're going to have a game where Russ isn't on he doesn't have his A+ stuff. He may have his B+ stuff, and his B+ stuff against some of these good offenses just won't cut it.
He has to pitch a perfect game every week in order for them to win. Yeah. He's got to be perfect every single week. And if he shows any sign of weakness or not being on his game, they'll lose. We saw it against the Bills. He had a couple interceptions and it was over. He's got to play the best game every single week, and that's just unrealistic for any team and any player. Even Mahomes has his down weeks, and the Seahawks just aren't good enough as a whole to overcome that. And it's just a reality situation for Seattle, and it sucks for them because Russell Wilson is, probably the best quarterback in the NFC and number 2 in my mind behind Mahomes in the league, and it's very unfortunate for them.
Mahomes, real quick, has never had a bad game in his career.
He has. He was atrocious in the first 3.5 quarters of the Super Bowl.
But I'm just saying, by the numbers,
he wasn't great numbers. He wasn't great against the Chargers earlier this year. He's had his games where he's not
But he still had 300 yards and 2 touchdowns against the Chargers. I'm saying by the numbers, he's never had a bad game. You go through his entire game, he's never had a game that stands out as, oh, he played bad. Now I'm not saying he's not always Patrick Mahomes fantastic, but if you go back to his game log, it's a fun exercise. He's never had a bad statistical game. All right, next team.
Maybe I'll try it after the show. The Chicago Bears are at 10. I mean,
they're done. Cross them off. Them off. They're done. Done.
The fact they started 5-1 is incredible.
They beat nobody in that stretch too.
They beat the Buccaneers. I mean, the sad.
I guess you're right. I take that back. I rescind that statement. You're correct.
And then the next team is the Colts. Very interesting team here. They just lost to the Ravens. They're 1 game back of the Titans, who they play on Thursday night to try to get back to a tie for first place in that division. At the end of the day, Phil Rivers is not the guy to lead that team. I think the Titans win that game. I actually bet on the Titans. When you have Phil Rivers at quarterback, you sort of lost me.
Well, betting against Phil Rivers is never fun because he's due for 4 garbage time touchdowns, just like Kirk Cousins is. And that Titans defense isn't very good. But I agree. I love the Colts defense. Their skill players are getting banged up now. But my same concerns with Drew Brees I have with Phil Rivers. Brees is just elite accurate still, and Rivers is not. So I think the mental side's there. The physical just isn't there for Rivers. And I think they could win some games based on how good they are defensively and how sound they are fundamentally. But they can't beat one of the better teams in the AFC.
All right, let's talk about some contenders. One interesting team is the Vikings, who have won, I believe, 2 in a row. Dalvin Cook is putting the team on his back. Here are my thoughts on the Vikings. When you play them, put 10 guys in the box, eliminate Cook. Make Kirk Cousins beat you. And if you do that and you force Kirk Cousins to actually play quarterback, they will lose every single game. It's amazing that the teams that they played recently, the Packers and the Lions, just are like, here, Dalvin, here you go. We'll party on the Red Sea. Do whatever you want. The formula for beating the Vikings is so simple, and the fact that these other teams can't recognize it is baffling. And I'm floored that teams are playing them the way they are. And I don't buy into the Vikings one bit. They do have talent, but take Dalvin Cook out of the game, make someone else beat you, and they'll lose every single time. That's where I stand on the Vikings.
What's baffling to me is how you don't have a defensive coordinator job after that insanely detailed game plan. I agree with you, though. Yeah, you can't put 10 in the box, but if you don't have 8 every play, I think you're doing something wrong. The Vikings want to throw the ball 12 times a game. Like, their perfect game plan is run 45 plays and throw 12.
And that's not a formula for sustained success one bit.
No.
And any coach with a brain, stop Dalvin Cook. Like, what is wrong with you? How do you not recognize it? How do you not do everything in your power to eliminate that guy? Because Kirk Cousins isn't good enough. He's just not. And it's just very infuriating for me week in and week out to see this team just let Dalvin Cook just run all over them. By the way, Dalvin Cook is just wasting prime years in that team. It's very sad. Kind of like Saquon with the Giants.
Cook's fantastic. Yeah, he's awesome. I'll let that Giants
The Raiders are an interesting team in the AFC. They've beaten some really, really good teams this year. And I mean, I probably will never be like a full believer. They've beaten the Saints. They've beaten the Chiefs. They've beaten the Chargers. I mean, everyone beats the Chargers. They've beaten the Browns. I mean, they're 5-3, very much in the playoff conversation. But they're sort of sneaking up on you. No one really talks about them, but they've been winning games.
They have a great offensive line. Josh Jacobs is a bowling ball, and Derek Carr is finally throwing the ball deep so teams can't put 8 in the box. It's not a crazy formula, but they're just good at what they do. They don't try to be someone else. It sounds cliche, but they don't try to do these fancy plays, and they just do what they do. Darren Waller's a baller. John Gruden has his finger on the pulse of what the league wants to do offensively, and he's managing it very well. Their defense has issues, but their offense can score with just about anybody. And when you beat the Chiefs by running the ball and controlling the clock, you could do it on Kansas City. You could do it on almost anybody. And then when you bring the extra guy in the box, he's been pretty damn good this year. So they're frisky. They're not a contender as far as I think they can make the AFC Championship, but I think they could definitely be a playoff team and give a top seed a run for their money in the first round.
We'll see how that all shakes out. But I will never be a believer in Derek Carr-led team. That's just never going to happen. All right, on to the Giants. They're now 2-7 after beating Washington, 23-20, 2-0 against Washington, 0-7 against every other team. But if you look at their season, they could have 1, 2, 3, 4. They could be 7.
They should be 6-3 right now.
I mean, they blew the week 1 game against Pittsburgh.
They blew Chicago.
They probably should have beaten the Bears in week 2. They led 17-3 against the Cowboys in the game Dak got hurt. They should have beaten the Eagles in that Thursday night game.
Yep.
And they should have beaten the Buccaneers. And they were a 2-point conversion away from forcing overtime in that game and had a double-digit lead. With the NFC East, I mean, it's all directions are pointing to the Eagles winning that division. And I'd be floored if they didn't. But this Giants team, man, they're starting to click. They're starting to, every week they're getting better and better. The fact that they were staying in the game with Tampa, regardless of how they looked against the Saints, as long as they did, it's a huge achievement. And Joe Judge is coaching the crap out of that team. And looks like Daniel Jones might be sticking around a little longer than you originally thought.
Listen, they play hard as crap, and they're coached well. And when you get that, especially from a new coach, I think it's promising. He just needs to get his players in now. And with this weird offseason, no training camp, no TAs, I'm not surprised it's taken a little longer than he would have liked, just based on the fact that they didn't have reps to get this mojo going together. But they're frisky. The Tampa Bay game, Tampa Bay definitely overlooked them looking at New Orleans, and that proved to be a fatal mistake.
No, they didn't because I thought at the time that they were overlooking them, but clearly it wasn't because they played just as poorly as they did against the Giants.
That doesn't mean they weren't overlooking them. It just means maybe Tampa Bay's just not that good. It's one of the two.
There you go. Maybe
we'll figure it out. But as far as the Giants go, they still have the 4th pick in the draft. The best thing for the franchise is for them to suck. But there's something to be said about a young coach and a scrappy team finding ways to grind out wins. And I think you have to learn that as a team. Like, the Jets suck because they don't know how to win. The Giants are slowly learning how to win. And even though it's ugly, even though Daniel Jones is like the second incarnation of Jesus against the Washington football team, and the second incarnation of Blake Bortles against everyone else in the league, like, it's his splits against those two differences is ridiculous. I'm at a loss. I don't know if I want them to win or lose anymore. I think they're in the division hunt. It wouldn't shock me if they catch Philadelphia. It really wouldn't.
Who wins on Sunday?
The Giants.
Wow.
They should have beat Philly the first time.
I mean, the Eagles they're getting weapons back. They're getting Rager back. Fulgham
I think that's bad. I think that's bad. Carson Wentz plays worse with the better weapons he has. I can't explain it, but he does.
Well, I mean, if they win that game, then all bets are off in the NFC East because that means the Giants will be they'll still be trailing because they have 7 losses and the Eagles will have 5. But
the Giants are the best team in the division right now.
We'll find out. I think the Eagles win on Sunday, and then they sort of brush any potential thought of the Giants keeping it close away. I think that ends this week.
We'll see. Speaking of wins, our Jets, Frank. I needed the Jets to win that game.
Why?
I needed Flacco to win.
Why are you texting me during the game, Flacco, Jets are back?
Because I needed y'all to win.
Why?
Because the Giants are going to start winning games, so I need that number 1 pick to still be within, in reach with the more games they win.
At the end of the day, I think the Jaguars are getting the number 1 overall pick. I think they're clearly the worst team in the league. The Jets, listen, there was the first game all season. They had all 3 wide receivers healthy, Perryman, Crowder, and Mims. And you saw Flacco threw 3 touchdowns. I mean, that offense, when those guys are healthy and when they get Sam Darnold back, and if Darnold played that game, I think the Jets win pretty easily. The Jets are going to win at least 2 games. I think that they have a bye this week. I think they can easily beat the Chargers, lose to everybody. I can easily see the Jets winning that game. I could easily see them beating Tua at one of those games. I could easily see them beating the Browns, and then they have the Patriots again at the end of the season, who they could be 3-12 at that point, and who knows what the Patriots season will be. So the Jets are winning at least 2 games here. It's just a matter of how many games the Jaguars end up winning for that number 1 overall pick. And my gut tells me that the Jaguars are going to end up with that pick. I think that's the way it pans out. Well,
that would stink. I want to see Lawrence on the Jets or Fields on the Jets if he comes out.
Well, I want to too. The Fields thing is interesting. There's been a lot of comparisons with Fields to Dwayne Haskins about how great he looked at Ohio State and then just a complete abomination in the NFL.
Fields is a much better athlete. So before anything else, Fields is fantastic. Fields is probably the most accurate college quarterback I've ever seen, but he's throwing to guys that are wide ass open, just wide open. So who knows how that translates?
We'll see. But the whole Trevor Lawrence thing, which we'll transition to momentarily here, but I don't know. I think the Jaguars just stay. I think you saw the groundwork being placed this week for the Jets, and I hate it when the Jets keep it close like that and sort of tease you that. If you're gonna lose, just lose. Don't.
I'm with you. I'm right there with you. The close losses are so much worse than the blowouts.
I mean, I wanted them to lose, but I just hate when they put themselves in that situation where they just get destroyed on social media because it pains me, but because the way they blew that, I mean, it was almost like they were like, all right, we're up by 10. This is ridiculous. We need to lose. All right. So here's what we're going to do. Flacco, throw in a triple coverage on the first play.
I mean, it made no sense at all.
And then the next drive will run it twice, be 3rd and long, and then Flacco will get sacked. And I believe that was the sequence of events. They ran it twice and Flacco got sacked, and that was that drive. And they ran 4 plays in the 4th quarter. New England scored in all their possessions, and it was just the perfect recipe you could draw for how to blow a late lead, and they executed to perfection. You could not do it better.
They did.
It was
the first time they've executed anything on offense all season.
It was a real sight to see. I still have the under on the Patriots 9.5 wins, so I did the math. They have to go 7-2 the rest of the way in order to avoid.
You're safe. You're very safe. Don't worry.
They got the who do they have? The Ravens.
You're safe. It doesn't matter who they have. You're safe. Let's talk about college football though. Cancellations galore in the SEC. Frank, A&M done? No. What are you shaking your head?
No. I'm just the whole this whole college football season.
I thought you thought you're telling me I'm wrong. I'm like, no, trust me, I know.
Usually are. So this is one of the rare instances where it's not.
57.3% of the SEC slate this week has been wiped out due to COVID-19 concerns. Last week, Notre Dame beat Clemson. Clemson's Trevor Lawrence, possibly the Jets' next franchise quarterback, missed the game due to COVID-19. Frank, I'll tell you down here, at A&M at least, there's only 2 positive tests on the team, but there are nearly 3 dozen players in quarantine due to contact tracing.
Wow. So they canceled the game over 2 positive tests?
2 positive tests because 36 players are out for 2 weeks due to contact tracing, and then they don't meet the minimum threshold. At LSU, there's only 3 positive tests, I believe, and Missouri only has 1.
What?
It's not outbreak. These are not outbreaks. These are contact.
Then I thought they had to. All right. Well, my understanding is they cancel the games when you can't fill the 53-man roster. So these teams cannot fill 53-man roster. I guess there's a possibility of more tests, which is the reasoning for it.
So I can tell you exactly what happened to A&M. The other stuff's what I heard. So A&M had a positive test before South Carolina. Their starting safety did not travel to South Carolina. Everyone else traveled. On the plane back, the second player who tested positive was in a middle seat on the airplane. So 16 guys around him have to self-quarantine now for 14 days due to SEC guidelines. And then it's a staff member, a player personnel member, was around 8 other players. So then those 8 plus the 16 plus the 2 plus the injuries plus the opt-outs, and A&M doesn't have 53 scholarship players.
It's unbelievable.
So it's only 2 cases. It's 2 positive cases that's canceling games here.
I was literally planning a college football show for this weekend for work, and Alabama, LSU gone, Ohio State, Maryland gone, Georgia, Missouri gone, Auburn, Mississippi State gone. I mean, it's unbelievable. They got off to a great start. They got off to a great start of the season. The Big Ten and the Pac-12 were like, oh my God, this is working. And then
you know what it is, right?
I mean, it's the students are, and another point I heard was that
Halloween.
Students are reckless. You just can't trust these kids. At the end of the day, you can't trust them. That was the prevailing thought all along. You cannot trust these kids. But the other thought is when these teams start losing and they're not in a contention for national championship, they stop caring and they just want to live their lives. And they're going to parties. They're living like normal college people. And that's just not, if you're trying to have a college football season, that is not how the way to go about it. Because these kids they're going to want to be kids. And
yeah.
You're seeing
these most recent round of tests come from Halloween weekend. So you put 2 and 2 together. And once again, who knows how A&M's players got them, but it's only 2. It's not a team-wide outbreak, which is contrary to what ESPN keeps pushing on the bottom line. They keep saying A&M out. It's 2 players. It's not an outbreak. Like let's get the record very clear on that, ESPN. But it sucks. It sucks because thankfully we're not traveling this year with the team. But imagine we had bought plane tickets and hotels for Knoxville, where they were supposed to play this week. It's a pain in the butt. And I'm not sure how the SEC reschedules some of these games because Alabama is going to be in the SEC championship. They can't make up the game on the championship day because they'll be playing in the championship. So I'm not sure what the SEC does.
The solution is so simple, though. Push everything back a week. Why are they so afraid to move the schedule back a week?
Because then it interferes with the college football playoff bowls and those stadiums.
Push it back a week.
I think it's easy to say that. I think there are conflicting schedules.
Well, eventually you get to a point where the season ends after that championship.
I agree. I'm just telling you what I've been told. I'm giving you my inside knowledge on this.
Well, put me in charge, and I'll push everything back a week. We'll get every game in. We'll get the championship game in. We'll get all your little stupid bowl games that no one will watching. We'll get the college football playoff in. Everyone will be happy. It just will be a little later than we originally thought. And if that's the case, so be it. Like, why is this?
I agree. I agree. They should push back, give it one more bye week built in, and then make the college football playoff announcement the day after Christmas. That's what makes the most logical sense. But it doesn't seem like that's what college football wants to do.
All right. Speaking of coronavirus, Notre Dame beat Clemson. We'll talk about what happened after first, and then we'll get to the actual game. So after the game was over, Notre Dame wins. They get the stop in overtime, and the 30,000 fans that were there all rushed the field like absolute lunatics. I was floored. I couldn't believe it. I was like, wait. As I was watching it, it was almost like watching like a tragedy unfold before your eyes. Like, no, this can't happen. This can't happen. And then all of a sudden, every student known to man is on the field, like arm in arm, completely disregarding everything that we've been going through the past 8 months. Just out the window, gone. This is why college football needs to ban fans from every single game. Fans should no longer be at games because you can say, or I can't speak to actually how fans are actually like causing all this stuff, but get them out of the way. Make them a non-factor. Make that speculation gone. Keep the team within the team. Don't let them mix with the players. Them storming field is one of the most arrogant things I've ever seen. I couldn't believe it when it happened. And anyone that's defending it there's no justification for that. Zero.
So I'm not defending it. I just think kids are going to be kids, and you have to know what you're getting into. I think it's on Notre Dame for not having better security in place to stop that from happening. They looked like there was no one there trying to slow them down. I didn't see a single security guard there. My question is, Clemson's been tested twice since, and Notre Dame's been tested twice since, and we haven't heard anything about a positive test in those two programs, have we?
Well, not with the football team, but there was a kid on the news like the morning after or 2 mornings after that a kid that stormed the field and tested positive, and now like all of his roommates and everyone that lives on his floor or whatever has to quarantine. So there was a kid on that field who tested positive for the coronavirus, which means that every single person on that field, every single player on both teams could have Rona.
Yeah, it's crazy. We still have so much to learn about how it spreads and all that. It's more on Notre Dame than the kids. I have a hard time getting mad at kids for being kids, but Notre Dame has to have better protocols in place to stop that from happening.
The kids,
it's going to happen. Listen, it's going to happen in college basketball. If a team upsets a team, they're going to storm.
You can't, and you can't have fans then. Then that's a solution, because if you storm the court, that's just it's like when you lighter fluid in a fire. It just explodes.
Yeah.
It explodes like that, and before you know it, the season's over. And
I agree.
I'm shocked that I heard anything.
It was dumb, but like I said, I just have a hard time blaming kids for being kids. Speaking of kids, you love LaMelo Ball, Franco. Tell us why.
I don't. There's not really a single guy in this draft that I love. I'm very intrigued by LaMelo. It's unfortunate that he's probably gonna go to Minnesota, because that's like Joe Burrow going to Cincinnati. It's like the dumpster fire of the NBA. But I'm very curious. I'm very intrigued to see him play at the next level. And that's all I really have to say about the NBA draft.
Is he the most intriguing prospect in your mind?
Oh, by far. There's not a single guy that I'm more interested in seeing LaMelo. All the intrigue, Lonzo's brother, all the hype, best prospects. I haven't really seen him actually play a game, because he didn't play college basketball. He played overseas in high school, whatever he did. I want to see what he actually looks like in a game, and he could be a huge bust for all we know. But
he can't shoot. He's a great passer, can't shoot. A guy, I'm gonna butcher his name, will end up being the best player in this draft. You ready?
Israel.
What?
Dude from Israel.
No, he's good too though. He actually plays with Jeff Gray, former Emerson basketball star. He played on the same team in Israel with Jeff. Very nice. No, Aneka Okawu from USC. Stud.
Well, all right. So you say best player, is he like a first team all NBA? What are we talking here?
I have been told that he reminds someone who knows Bam Adebayo very well of Bam Adebayo.
All right. Looking at the boards, like Anthony Edwards, I don't know how good he's going to be. James Wiseman, sort of an unknown. I don't think he's
It's not a very good draft.
Yeah.
Killian Hayes is another guy, like the guy from France.
Sadiq Bey was great at Villanova. I think he could have a nice role in the NBA. But in terms of a player, a transcendent player in this draft, like you said, I don't know if there's anyone in this draft that's going to end up beating that.
I agree. Frank, this was fun.
That'll do it for episode 10 of the Lucas and Lucas podcast. You know where to find me at Lucas Frankel. We're on YouTube. We're on Apple Podcasts. Download and subscribe today. Mike, you got anything to plug?
No. See y'all next week.